Look, I am really trying to stay positive here, but I won't lie, the atmosphere in the locker room after the match was incredibly heavy. Honestly, the main thing keeping me going is knowing my team and everyone around me will remind me that I played well and I am still on a roll. You do not want to see the fallout when a 20-year-old tennis champion decides she is done being disrespected on national television. She doesn't waste time venting on Twitter. She doesn't break down crying during an interview. She files a $50 million lawsuit that could fundamentally change sports media. Coco Gauff just made a move most athletes would never even dare to attempt. She stared down one of the biggest sports networks in America and effectively said, "You crossed a line, and now you are going to pay for it." And when I say pay, I'm talking about $50 million worth of hard accountability. I feel like people often forget that athletes are people too. They completely disregard the human side of the equation. They throw around so many comments, saying things like, "You are number 3 in the world, why are you playing like that?" Or, "You need to be better." But at the end of the day, I feel like even if I stopped right now and never picked up a racket again starting tomorrow, I have already built the kind of career that most people can only dream of having. Make no mistake, this isn't about a bad call from a referee. This isn't about unfair rankings or typical tournament drama. This is about a Fox Sports host who thought he could dismantle a young woman's career on live TV and walk away tangent-free. He was wrong. Dead wrong. While everyone expected Coco to just shake it off, maybe post something inspirational on Instagram, and move on, she did the exact opposite. She collected every clip, every word, and every malicious remark, turning them into a legal weapon that has Fox Sports scrambling harder than a player chasing a drop shot. I think I simply showed the world what it looks like to be human. I have bad days just like anyone else. But ultimately, it is about how you pick yourself up after those low moments and how you choose to show up afterwards. Today, I proved I can rise again even after feeling my absolute lowest on the court. But the real question isn't whether she had the right to sue. The question is, why did it take this long for an athlete to finally take a stand like this? And more importantly, what exactly did that host say that was so destructive it is now worth $50 million in a court of law? Here is the full story, and believe me, it gets more intense with every single detail. It all began during what was supposed to be a standard broadcast. Fox Sports was covering the Miami Open, running their usual pre-tournament analysis and breaking down the matchups. Then, one of the hosts decided to throw the script out the window in the worst possible way. Instead of analyzing Coco's game, her serve percentages, or her odds in the tournament, he made it personal. Extremely personal. He openly questioned whether her success was legitimate or merely a product of media hype. He insinuated that she was far too immature to handle the pressures of professional tennis. And then came the part that really crossed the line. He implied her achievements were exaggerated and that she didn't deserve the acclaim she has received. You know, I have gained a fresh perspective seeing the incredible support I have received since that moment. Just seeing how proud people are of me, regardless of my performance here. Honestly, I felt a lot lighter walking off the court today, and I really hope to maintain that sense of weightlessness for the remainder of my time here. Let that sink in for a moment. A grown man on national TV, with millions watching, decided to publicly question if a Grand Slam champion actually earned her success. He wasn't criticizing her backhand technique or her strategy, he was attacking her worthiness as an athlete. The delivery made it so much worse. He had this smug tone, this dismissive energy, as if he were doing the world a favor by exposing the truth about Coco Gauff. That wasn't analysis. It was character assassination masquerading as sports commentary. The show just rolled on. His co-host laughed awkwardly and tried to pivot, but the damage was already done. Those words were out in the ether, recorded, broadcast into households across the country, and spreading through social media in minutes. Matt, great job, thank you. So, after everything that went down on Thursday night, did you wake up feeling a bit different yesterday? Yeah, definitely. I think I just realized that I never want to experience a moment like that on the court ever again. I am not someone who likes to show weakness, but after the match I started thinking, maybe it is not actually a weakness. It is really just acknowledging the struggles taking place inside my mind, rather than bottling them up until I crash. Fans watching live immediately started screen recording the segment. Twitter absolutely exploded. Within an hour, clips were everywhere, and the public was furious. It wasn't just Coco's fans, it was tennis lovers, sports journalists, and even casual viewers who could tell this was completely out of line. This wasn't just harsh analysis. It wasn't about keeping a pro honest. It was a calculated assassination of character, aimed squarely at a young black icon who has already conquered the sport's highest peaks. While social media exploded into chaos, Coco went dark. No clapbacks, no tearful captions, absolute radio silence. That quiet wasn't fear. It was a tactic. To grasp the magnitude of this legal battle, you have to know the real Coco Gauff. We aren't talking about some random player whining about a negative headline. This is a prodigy bearing the crown since she was 15. She stormed Wimbledon in 2019, shattering Venus Williams in the opener. Just 15 years old, a high schooler toppling a deity on the hallowed grass. From that second on, the globe was captivated. She became the modern era's youngest Wimbledon qualifier. Opinions on her destiny flooded in. By 20, a Grand Slam title was already hers. She smashed into the top 10 and forged an empire that takes veterans a lifetime to build. New Balance, massive contracts, millions tracking her every move. She's not just on the clay, she's owning billboards and glossies. She isn't merely a competitor, she is an enterprise. That is why the Fox incident cuts so deep. Coco's name is her bank account. When a giant network disputes her reality, it's more than a slur. It's an assault on her bottom line. Brands buy prestige, crowds cheer for the real deal. If a pundit claims she's a fraud, that poison seeps into contracts, deals, and her legacy. Coco is armored against hate. They called her too green, too fragile, too hyped. She's heard every word and usually responds with pure class. She lets the racket speak, locks in, and stacks victories. Why was this the breaking point? Because they weren't critiquing her backhand. They were gunning for her soul and her seat at the table. It aired on national TV, brainwashing millions who trust these experts implicitly. Coco had an epiphany. Taking the high road had become a weakness. Silence was just giving them the pen to write her biography, and she refused to hand it over. As soon as the footage leaked online, it was anarchy. Instantly, tags like Defend Coco and Respect the Game went global. Supporters weren't just annoyed, they were out for blood. But here is the twist. Her peers entered the chat. Serena dropped a support post. Naomi Osaka branded the remarks as shameful. WTA pros flooded timelines with their own media horror stories, transforming Coco's battle into a revolution. When competitors form a shield wall like that, you know a line was crossed. Pros usually play Switzerland. But this was so distinct, so toxic, that silence felt like guilt. A single tweet nailed it. Imagine being 20, a champion, and still begging for basic dignity. That is the daily grind for women in sports. The post racked up hundreds of thousands of shares. Heavyweight writers penned op-eds. ESPN Talent started dragging Fox live on air. Competitors jumped in, blasting the network for choosing clicks over integrity. Amidst the firestorm, Coco remained a ghost. No tweets, no stories, zero. The rumors started swirling. Was she broken? Was she tuning it out? No one knew. But the crowd missed the truth. Coco wasn't hiding. She was loading her weapon. Then the bomb dropped. Coco's lawyers slapped Fox Sports and the host with a $50 million suit. $50 million. Not a warning letter, not a request for sorry total nuclear war. The filing nailed them on 3 fronts. First, defamation. The lies were calculated to destroy. Second, emotional trauma. This wasn't analysis, it was a public flogging. Third, professional sabotage. By calling her a fake, Fox put a target on her future checks. The legal eagles dove in, and the consensus was terrifying. Coco has them cornered. A high-profile litigator laid it out plain. When you dismantle a pro's image on a mega platform, and that image pays the bills, you are walking into a minefield. That 50 million figure? Not a guess. Her squad crunched the numbers on her brand equity, current deals, and future gold. This isn't a cash grab. It's a warning shot with a price tag too big to overlook. Fox's attorneys knew they were cooked instantly. It's all on tape, every word, every sneer. In libel land, evidence is king, and Coco has the footage in 4K. When she finally broke her silence, she was ice cold. My performance on the court has always been my loudest statement. But when lies start circulating, the damage goes far beyond just my personal reputation. It spits in the face of every competitor grinding for their dreams. This fight isn't about chasing celebrity. It's a cold, hard battle for justice, stripped of rage and focused solely on the truth. That quiet confidence struck a nerve. The moment those legal papers hit the desk, absolute chaos erupted behind the doors of Fox Sports. Their public relations department scrambled to issue a cookie-cutter apology, claiming they hold Coco Gauff in high regard as a professional. They insisted the remarks were merely subjective viewpoints, never meant to wound. But let's decode what they really meant. We screwed up royally, so please don't sue us for $50 million. But the clock had run out. The anchor responsible for the vitriol suddenly lost his voice. His social media went dark, and his airtime vanished. It was the heavy, suffocating silence that only comes after a terrifying meeting with legal counsel. The network tried to erase history, scrubbing the footage from their digital library within hours. They acted like it never happened, but the internet never forgets. Fans had already ripped and shared the video across the globe. Out of the public eye, the network's legal sharks were frantically trying to cut a deal to end the nightmare. They were desperate to bury the scandal in a quiet backroom agreement. However, Coco's camp wasn't looking for a hush-hush resolution. They dragged this into the sunlight because the cash was irrelevant. The goal was forcing them to own their actions. As one legal expert put it perfectly, the network didn't merely step over the boundary separating analysis from slander. They sprinted across that line at full speed. A channel built on ruthless hot takes suddenly crumbled under the weight of repercussions. But this legal battle represents far more than a simple feud between a player and a broadcaster. The stakes are monumental. For years, the industry has felt entitled to treat competitors, particularly young women, as open targets for any verbal assault they pleased. And the players were just supposed to absorb the abuse, flash a polite grin, and keep walking. Coco flipped the narrative completely. By taking legal action, she fired a warning shot across the bow of every major media outlet. The game has changed. You can critique the play, but assassinating someone's character now comes with a heavy price tag, and the industry felt the shockwaves instantly. Boardrooms across the nation began a frantic, hushed review of their own editorial guidelines. Executives issued urgent directives demanding civil discourse. Suddenly, on-air personalities were walking on eggshells when talking about the next generation of stars. A source inside the industry laughed that everyone is absolutely petrified of making the same fatal mistake as Fox. Big corporate backers watched the drama unfold and placed their bets on Coco. Giants like Nike, New Balance, and tech titans applauded her courage in the public square. They didn't view it as a scandal. They recognized it as true leadership. Coco transcended her sport, transforming into the ultimate symbol of player rights. Here was a 20-year-old woman forcing a media empire to its knees and demanding answers. While others might hide behind press agents, Coco put her own signature on the legal complaint. Even the governing body of women's tennis backed her defense of her good name, essentially ordering the press to cease their bullying tactics. In a twist of poetic justice, the very pundit who labeled her overrated inadvertently elevated her status. This legal war evolved her from a court champion into a worldwide legend. So, what is the current state of play in this high-stakes drama? The court battle rages on, with the network trying every trick to silence the noise. Yet, Coco refuses to yield an inch. Her attorneys are pressing the attack, and sources suggest their evidence is bulletproof. Regardless of whether a settlement is reached, the statement has been made loud and clear. You cannot treat players with the disrespect of the 90s. In this era of digital paper trails and immediate reckoning, those days are over. The most impressive part of this saga is that Coco never allowed the distraction to throw her off her game. She continued to dominate the tour, racking up wins and greeting her supporters with that signature smile. Each triumph served as a reminder that you cannot dismantle a spirit forged in steel and self-belief. The industry is already shifting its entire operating model because of this case. Pundits are now pausing to reflect before launching personal tirades. Broadcasters are shielding themselves from lawsuits, while players realize they hold the cards. Coco Gauff delivered more than just a legal summons. She put every talking head on notice. Young competitors are no longer punching bags. It is a wake-up call for channels that choose clickbait over dignity. Today's stars are intelligent, tactical, and fearless when defending their value. That is the defining line between a mere celebrity and an immortal icon. Now, I turn the question to you. Was Coco justified in demanding $50 million, or should she have walked away? Unleash your opinions in the comment section below. If you believe respect is non-negotiable, smash the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell, because this saga is nowhere near its finale.